Hello, everyone. This is Olga Adler from Austin Businesswoman. And today we're going to talk about the very important subject of education, family enrichment, and resources that you and your kids need for finding the best opportunities in your state, in your area, and all over the US. And our guest today is Esha Clearfield, the founder of Enriched Family, a company in Austin that's your go-to education guide that can help you with finding all those useful resources. Hi, Isha. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Olga. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here and talk with the Austin businesswoman community.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of people in our community who could start using your services today because we have a lot of mompreneurs, a lot of family people who have kids and who just don't know about everything that we have out there, especially after the 2 years of the pandemic. We don't know what's still working. Are there still camps? Are there still special, uh, I don't know, features available? So tell us more about your company and what you do.
Sure. So, Enriched Family is I'm a family coach and organizer. I started Enriched Family in 2017, and it really came out of my own experience as a busy professional parent. My husband and I are both dual career. We're a dual career household. All of our family is on the East Coast. And I remember being a new parent and really kind of struggling to balance my identities as a professional and as a parent, and looking around and wondering why aren't there more services for professional busy parents. And my background is in before I started Enriched Family, I did project management and research for over 20 years in the public policy and nonprofit sectors. And so I just started thinking about, how could I kind of pivot and use my research and project management skills to help support families. And so it was a very once I thought of the idea, it was pretty seamless, and it's become a huge passion of mine.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so happy that you're offering this because I have older kids, I have younger kids, and with older kids we didn't have this opportunity. But my toddler is now growing, and so I'm sure we'll
Yeah.
be contacting you a lot. Speaking of, how can a family reach out to you, and what should their expectations be? What will they receive?
That's a great question. So my website is enrichedfamily.com. I have a contact form on the website, and most parents kind of come to me that way. On the contact form, they can indicate the services that they're interested in or the issue areas that they're wanting to address. And then I offer a free 30-minute phone or Zoom consultation with parents to really get a sense of what are their needs and talk about my services and make sure we're a great match. And then from
Mhm.
there, I'll usually give an estimate, and we talk through the prioritization. Some parents just come to me and say, please work out camps for my kids. And then other parents will come to me and have kind of a whole host of things they want me to work on. And so we just take one by one, and work through them together.
Mhm. And as to the parents who are coming to you, what would be the average age for the kids that they are seeking
Hmm.
help for?
That's a really good question as well. Really, my services kind of span the life of a family. And so I provide services, whether it's back to work plans and systems for parents who are returning to work after maternity or paternity leave, then parents who are, maybe they're looking for preschools for the first time, or comparing public and private schools, camps, enrichment activities. But then I also help families who are researching colleges. So the age of the kids really is kind of across from birth to college.
Oh, that's great. So people can come to you and they can have the future opportunities for their kids mapped out from this
Mhm.
consultation. They might be like, well, my kid is maybe in the athletic track, so he or she will be interested in this kind of camps or this kind of activities. Or maybe we want to pursue, I don't know, sciences, or maybe we
Mhm.
want to do
Mhm.
something, I don't know, theater. And so they can just come to you and ask you what are the best things that we can start doing today before our baby can even start, attending
Mhm.
kindergarten or something like this, and talk to you. Uh, that's an amazing service. And what's your approach to families? How do you, um, is it more like you guide them, you just give them a list of all the things available, or is it more like consulting where it's a
Mhm.
dialogue with the kid and with the parents
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
working out opportunities as you go?
It really is custom. None of the services that I offer are cookie cutter. I'm an owner operator, so parents will encounter me. They're going to benefit from all of my experience, and also my experience as a parent. I have two kids, and so really, it is more of a consultation, and I try to see the best approach for each family. So, families will come to me and um, we'll sit down and get a sense of what they're needing in terms of, say, camps. They're wanting STEM camps or coding camps for their kids.
Hmm.
And then if the kids are older, I always try and bring the kids into it so that we want to be sure that they're going to enjoy the enrichment opportunities as well. Certainly, when we're working on like family schedules and household division of labor and chores and things like that, I always, my desire is to have a whole family meeting where we all get together and sit down and talk about, okay, here's the new structure that the family is taking on and why, and talk through it so that you get buy-in from everyone.
Hmm. Yeah, I like this holistic approach because you also take into
Hmm.
consideration the lifestyle of the family, interest of the particular child. Because sometimes, of course, children don't know, like, for example, they won't be too happy about doing music lessons until they get
Hmm.
into it, because it's also work. So this kind of guidance where you talk to them, you see their personality
Hmm.
is really great. Do you offer opportunities across the US? Is it global? Is it just Texas?
So I'm based in Austin, but I provide services to families across the United States. I have had interest in folks, even outside of the United States, who were thinking of relocating to Austin.
Hmm.
And so it's a pretty seamless process. I mean, I think we've all learned how to be remote in these COVID times. And so what I end up doing is having a lot of Zoom conversations with parents. And we're able to really, develop a relationship and talk through the different aspects. And then I can follow up with them to be sure that implementation is going well. So I'm really happy to work with families all over.
Hmm. This is great. So it will be useful for families who are thinking of coming here. And as for families who contact you, if they say, for example, we are interested in camps in Wisconsin, can you
Mhm.
provide this opportunity, or is it just local resources that you can show them?
No, I definitely can provide resources in different states. I've done work for families in New Jersey and California, Nashville, Tennessee, kind of you name it, because all of that you're really looking at, you're using research to find the best resources. And then, the same type of strategies that parents would look at in terms of ratings and things of that nature. And then I also frequently call the resource and have conversations with them. And being a parent myself, I know the right questions to ask that a parent
Hmm.
would want to ask themselves. Um, and so I think that's another benefit of working with a consultant who is also a parent.
Yeah, and also is informed about other options, because sometimes you call
Hmm.
someone, they tell you what they have, what they offer, and it sounds great, but then you didn't have an opportunity to call 30 different places and see that on
Hmm.
average there are more things offered by other places, but you just didn't know. And it's hard to make an informed decision when you don't
Hmm.
have time to be informed. So that's why it's great to
Exactly.
consult someone. How did the pandemic affect your work? Have there been changes in the offer and demand for different kinds of things?
Definitely. I think initially the pandemic I think most parents were trying to survive, myself included. My kids were doing, remote schooling. I was trying to manage, it used to be I worked from home and it was nice and quiet. And then suddenly I had my kids here, my husband, my dog. It was a lot. Um, and what I found initially was that parents were kind of head down, just let's survive. And
Mhm.
so the business definitely slowed down a bit during the pandemic. But I'm finding now, I think now that we have vaccinations and we're just realizing this is something that we're going to have to deal with. More and more parents are going, okay, we really need to get some schedules and routines set up, or the division of labor broke down during, COVID or what have you. My approach, I liked what you said about, can folks can come to you and kind of map things out. But I see it more, they can certainly do that with me, but also that they come to me at different stages, because I think that kids are always changing, family dynamics are always changing. And so my whole goal is to revisit those organizational principles and systems, because they're not going to work for, 20 years. You
Mhm.
have to kind of revise them so that they work for the family and bring more harmony to the family. So lately, I'd say camp research is big right now.
Mhm.
A lot of family systems research, and also productivity, helping parents to kind of find more balance between home and work now that oftentimes everything's done at home with the pandemic. So it's been an interesting process. I've enjoyed kind of seeing how the the business can evolve through this.
I can imagine because it's such crazy time. It affects everyone, but it affects children more because they don't have a lot of years of experience before that. So to them, all these experiences of online school or
Hmm.
not having events or how we saw social distance birthday party drive-throughs. So
Hmm.
it's all gonna stay in their memories, but there are also a lot of new things that are being introduced, and I'm sure there are a lot of virtual experiences that are now being offered, education and
Hmm.
experience, and I can imagine how much work it is to stay abreast of all those things because, as you said, it keeps changing even in a very traditional field like education.
Hmm.
We keep seeing changes. Um, can you
Absolutely.
tell us about some case studies, some stories? For example, this family came and they had no idea what to do with their kid,
Hmm.
and how you came up with something that might have been, if not life changing, but very big discovery for the family itself.
In terms of education.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give a couple of examples. I worked with a family who was relocating here from California. It was kind of it happened very rapidly in terms of employment, and they had a preschooler, and were really concerned about making sure that child had the best learning environment. And so I was able to help them. First of all, because I have the knowledge on the ground, but also sit through, when you're a new parent or your child is relatively young, you don't necessarily know all the lingo. Is it play based? Is it Montessori? Is it Reggio Emilio? I mean, there's so many different learning philosophies and pedagogies out there. And so I come um, from a place of let's talk it through. This is
Mhm.
all new information. It was new information to me when my kids were little, in a lot of cases. And so we just talk through the different learning styles. Okay, tell me about your kid. Is being in nature and outside really important to them, or are they more kind of tactile learners? And so we talk through what the child's interested in and what learning environment would be the best. And then I do my research and interviews, and they were really happy to find a great spot for their kid. They refer to me as their child's educational guide.
Mhm.
And that was a wonderful feeling. And especially knowing if you're a parent out of state, it's a scary thought to send your kid to a school you've never set foot in. And so I was able to alleviate a lot of that anxiety, which was very rewarding for me as well. Another example would be a lot of times what I do is look at public school offerings compared to private school, to see what would be the best learning environment for a child, particularly sometimes children with disabilities, trying to see, or different learning differences, trying to see what would be the best environment for them.
Hmm. These are great examples, and it just shows that um, a lot of us think that there are not many things out there because they're not on your radar. And I'm in a lot of moms groups on Facebook, and a lot of moms are talking about these things. And sometimes you find out bits and pieces of information
Mhm.
from, word of mouth. And then you're like, I wish I'd known it 2 years
Right.
ago when we were just staying at home watching Disney Channel all day long and being
Mhm.
like, well, what possibly can I offer to my child?
Mhm.
He's too young for this and that. But we just don't
Mhm.
know all those things. And
Mhm.
as you mentioned, people moving from California. I know some couples who say we hear a lot of great things about Austin and Texas being good in terms of education, that it's a very
Mhm.
education rich area, but
Mhm.
we can't find anything. We tried Googling, but we can't find anything that's, really out there. And it's
Mhm.
good to direct someone to people like you who is like, well, here's a whole gamut of
Mhm.
things that you can try. Speaking of,
Absolutely.
how did the life of your kids change from before you started doing this work and
Mm.
after? Because I'm sure you're trying to introduce as much of the new assets into your
Mhm.
family life too.
Oh, absolutely. Um, I mean, I've always been a researcher. I've always been the person who's, when my kids were little, sitting on the bed with an Excel spreadsheet out, figuring out camps. And so that just comes naturally to me. But I definitely, my kids have benefited from, my connections in the community, as well as I just have kind of a mental Rolodex now. And if you come to me and you're like, hey, I want, fencing, I'm like, yep, okay, or I want lacrosse, whatever it may be. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know, let me look into it. And inevitably, you can find it. I mean, we are so lucky in Austin to have such a wealth of resources. Um, and especially if in coding or STEM, or a lot of really wonderful creative enriching activities for kids as well. I think the biggest change for my kids, though, has probably been the fact that I'm here. I worked in public policy consulting and traveled a lot, and now I'm able to work from home and am able to be here more, which was also part of my kind of striving for a different kind of life balance as well. And so I want to help support parents so they can, whether they're traveling or not, so they can feel a sense of harmony when they're home and really be able to do the things that are the most important to them.
Absolutely. I can't even express how valuable it is because we have both a toddler and a college student in the
Oh,
house. And
wow.
yeah, and it's very different needs, and you want to provide the
Mhm,
best you can to your
mhm,
kids, and you've been saving up for college, but when it all comes at you, especially it happened during the pandemic for us,
mhm,
um, and you need to do college application, and then there are SATs, and then there is an opportunity to be, I don't know, capped through colleges, and you learn all this terminology, and you're overwhelmed, and your child is
mhm,
overwhelmed and scared because to them it's such a life-changing event. Do you help people of that age,
mhm,
kids who are starting college? Can you take some pressure off them in that, because that was
mhm.
hell. I'm glad it's over,
I
but I'm sure we
bet.
could have handled it better if we had
I'm
someone
sure
to
you
rely.
handled it as well as you could and as beautifully as you could in such crazy times. Is your child now at college, or are
Yeah,
they
second
home?
second year of college and still home learning, so it's a lot of,
Okay. So
my
doing
college was a
remote.
different, yeah, remote.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
college was a different experience. You expect it all to be
Mhm.
like, I'm an adult now, I'm out of the house, but nope,
Mhm.
you're actually in the house with your computer, not talking to people in real life. So
Mhm.
a different
Yeah,
life. Yeah.
yeah, that is a big change. And hopefully, our kids will start to be able to go back to more of a normal life, and get to have all those experiences. Although for some kids, the remote learning has been really great for them. Kids with anxiety, or it's been helpful to them. So I always see, there are benefits to this kind of awful time we've been living through as well.
Mhm.
But I definitely, I love working with families to talk through. I think one of the biggest things is in my work is I'm a facilitator. Um, and so I'm working with families to say, okay, let's sit down and talk about budget, talking about the harder things, whether it's division of labor in a house, or how much money do we really have to set aside to college. Because I think those can be hard conversations for some parents to have with their kids. And so I'm there to kind of say, okay, so either whatever the financial situation is, it's either, a state school, in-state tuition, or this, scholarships have to happen in a big way, and then I can kind of help with research, but just so that the kid and the parent, they're on the same page, and there isn't this big surprise. And so, kids go in understanding, if you have to take out loans, this is what that means,
Mhm.
and sometimes not having, I think for the parents, not always having to be the heavy, and letting someone else, kind of more of a neutral party, kind of bring those facts to the table. It kind of takes the emotion out of it.
I can imagine it. It's very hard, and the tuition is going up every year. It's not like it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, even for the same colleges. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, it's a lot of hard conversations, a lot of pressure. And um, I'm glad there are people who can help with that, because all we found was SAT prep, which didn't really change that much between the two results that we got. But we thought, well, we tried the best we could. But if
Hmm.
you can go to actually one resource who can holistically connect what came before,
Hmm.
what your goals are, and how your family is handling it, not just
Hmm.
unloading this tons of information on people who are
Right.
unprepared and doing it for the first time. And for
Hmm.
many families, it is the only time to do it, and you can't go back. And so
Right.
that's absolutely amazing that you're doing this work. And do you have
Thank you.
any families who are child free, who are researching resources for themselves?
That's an interesting question. I'd say no. Usually, I mean, sometimes I'll have parents who come to me to work on family issues, family organization, and then they'll come back and say, "Hey, I also need some help in my small business in these different areas."
Mm,
Um, I have had a few grandparents come to me
mm,
to ask me to help them with resources for, their kids and their grandkids. But mostly, I mean, my emphasis is really on families and
mhm,
professional parents, and that's kind of my niche, and where I enjoy working.
mhm. Well, this is the hardest also, because in family you're responsible for your child, and then you're gonna think back years from now, did I do it right? Did I do my best to really provide an opportunity? Um, can you tell us about Isha outside of work as a
Sure.
person? What are you passionate
Um,
about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a little bit about me. I moved to Austin in 2001. I'm originally from Asheville, North Carolina. Let's see, I love spending time with my kids, doing a lot of different artistic and creative projects. Both my kids are pretty crafty, which I never was, and I'm kind of trying to learn and catch up with them. I love reading. I love cooking, gardening, kind of you name it. I certainly have not been able to do as many things for myself in the past few years as in the past, but I just try and be a good kind of citizen member of my community. I'm involved in different volunteer activities, things of that nature. You know, I'm like any other busy parent. I'm trying to do my best and, you know, probably spreading myself a little thin in places, but um, just trying to enjoy this time because, you know, I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old now. And the realization is that they're going to be going through what your child went through recently and doing college before I know it.
Yeah, and it's important that the person behind the brand is a relatable local
Mhm.
mom. It's not some corporate structure who's promoting resources that they want to promote. It's a mom
Mhm.
who has been through the same things and knows what other moms and dads are wondering about and what they need. Uh, do you have any final announcements, something that you would like our audience to know about?
Sure. Well, first of all, just thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I want to announce that any, you know, potential customers that hear, you know, this interview to come to me and I'd be happy to give 15% off services. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
Everyone who's watching, beware. Thank you so much for joining us today and for all the beautiful work that you're doing for families. And I'm sure looking back at these years, you'll be so proud of all the futures that you helped building. And I mean, what can be best? What can be better than that?
Thank you, Olga. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So if you want to reach out to Esha, you can see her website in our caption. It's enrichedfamily.com. And start thinking about your kids' future and present already today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.